that, we'll bring the regular session of May 18th to order and let's stand for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hey, thank you. Can we do roll call, please?
Right, Councilmember Knopfsinger.
Here.
Councilmember Bouchard.
Here.
Councilmember Reynolds.
Here.
Mayor Hurst.
Here.
Councilmember Sandusky.
Here.
Councilmember Chris.
Here.
Councilmember.
Can you hear me?
Hoffmeyer.
Yep,
Yes.
we got you. Thank you. All right, thank you. Now we have the minutes for work session of April 6th, April 6th regular, and April 20th regular session. We go over those, find anything?
I move that we approve the minutes of April 6, 2026 work session minutes. April 6, 2026 regular session minutes and the April 20th, 2026 regular session minutes.
Second. Okay. Moved in second by Sandusky. Questions called, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes.
Did we get a vote for Councilmember Chris?
Oh.
Aye.
Thank you. We did. Thank you. All right, next is our public comment section of the public hearings. Any person may address the council after being recognized by myself. However, topics which are under appeal or legal in nature cannot be addressed. Please state your name and address for the record. Time is limited to 3 minutes per person. Anybody have any? Solomon.
I got this in. My name is Dan Merrill, I live at 515 Bedford Avenue. I don't know if you guys have read your Facebook page, but it's full of comments on the sewer increase, and most people, I don't think understand it. So what I would like to do for my information, to get a copy of your proposed budget. And I would like it on the LB forms, not what's posted online. Do you have those?
Not tonight.
Well, no, I don't need it tonight, but it should be something like this. This is what gets turned into the state. This is the budget that we do for Utah Social Sanitary District. Secondly, I would like to get a copy of your inflow and infiltration EP report that is turned in annually. The form looks like this. All of us wastewater districts have to do it, cities have it, and any cover letters. And the information that I'm looking at here is any II repairs, any future II plans for repairs. So I can see what is being planned. Do you have, I'd like to get a copy of your NPDS permit. I'm sure I get all this stuff from Kenny, I just need, somebody's permission to get this.
I think
This is your discharge report, discharge permit that's issued by DEQ.
I think that would all be under public records request, right?
That is exactly how it needs to go.
Exactly.
So I come into the office and
You can come into the office, we'll give you the form, or you can email us the form.
allowed it. So if you know what I'm talking about conflicts, when you allow in water, power, any other franchise utilities, it's the city that decides where it goes. You've increased the cost to us to have to pay a contractor to have to go in and fix a lateral on past the property line that we have no jurisdiction in. We can't say, no, if I have to fix my lateral, I don't want a water line running in front of my house. I don't want, cable or phone or any type of utility like that. So I would like to ask that this gets looked at and due to the expense coming in the next couple of years to the residents, that we're required to put a clean out at the property line, but I think the city is responsible to the main line.
Carries on to the city street, yeah.
Yeah, because some of your main sewer lines, like the last one I just saw pictures were taken, the sewer line is made out of clay pipe. And clay pipe hasn't been manufactured for sewers since the sixties. Now, it's impervious to acids, hydrogen sulfide gases that's created in the sewer line, but it has no tensile strength. So if you go in there to repair your lateral and that clay pipe breaks, because it has no give, it has no bend, it's either whole or it breaks. Which it looked like yours stayed in when the rocks got on it, because it has no bend, no flex, like HDPE or like even PVC. So you now run the risk of breaking the main line. Who's responsible then if the main line breaks when you're trying to fix your house? So
It's no shock to staff and everyone here. I agree with you 100%. I brought it up many times. I don't feel that the citizens and homeowners should be responsible for anything under the streets. That's my view personally. I appreciate you bringing it up.
that's how we do it in our district. We take care of it from the property line. But I've read through this, and the way this is written is tight sewer joint. Now, I may have a different opinion than your staff may have, but my opinion also matched two other plumbers that came in and inspected the same sewer line.
We had a talk about this before you were here. Yeah, because it was something about legalities, so that's why it got paused.
We can't get insurance for the lateral lines going all the way to the house.
No, I meant the inspection of it.
The inspection of it, we can talk about there. I don't wanna get into all this.
Right.
Public comment.
Right.
But we are working to make sure that, because right now, as it is written, it's very subjective. And we're looking to tighten that up, so it's a more objective standard. But that's something I'm working on with Sean and his department, and we can bring that back.
Well, I would like to see some changes made on this. I mean, I can come in and talk with Sean or Kenny Holman or anything. Because I don't know about the insurance, we're covered, for failures and damage to other properties. I don't know what insurance he's referring to for the sewer system. But I think this needs to be addressed, especially as you move forward with having to rehabilitate the entire system.
Thanks, Steve. Thank you. Appreciate it. Anybody else? Or do we want to take a minute and or sleep?
We're back up. We're just trying to get that TV to display.
And the input is HDMI 1, 2, 2.
I don't know.
The guys look great from here. They look good.
The camera's up, the live stream's back up, the recording's back up, it's just that
Just
TV.
leave it up.
We're kind of Netflix, right?
Well, I prefer baseball, but
Yeah.
whatever you want.
Leave it up. If it's not gonna work.
That's fine,
Anybody else have anything for public comment? All right, come on.
Just walked out.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'm just
Go
trying.
ahead and work on that. We're listening.
Hi.
Hello.
Kel Rayer, I am recurrent. I am here to actually, kind of make a comment about the parking symposium that happened this week. I don't know how many of you all were there. But I just wanted to seek clarification about how we are not able to differentiate between employees who work in the downtown zone and residents who live there versus just a simple overstay and how there is, how we cannot, I'm not a lawyer, of course, but, it is, I was told by the city manager that, we would not be able, there is no way to make a differentiation between someone who is violating it as an employee or as an versus an overstay. So I just wanted to see clarification from city council on that, and if that is indeed the case, I would like to propose that there be something set up. Again, if it's legal, I'm not a lawyer, but it would be a good tool in the toolbox for enforcement. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Nobody, do we have anybody online?
That's
Well, with that, we will move to. Public hearings, consider public comment on proposed city sanitary rate increase. So I will open the public hearing. Purpose of this hearing is to provide the public with an opportunity to submit testimony concerning this. We will begin the order of business with a staff report, followed by any public testimony and conducting this hearing. So, go ahead.
So at our last meeting, the council heard from City Sanitary who wants to raise their fees. Their proposed fee schedule is attached as exhibit A and B to the ordinance or department resolution. Per the previous ordinance, we just set, the council sets the fees by resolution. And we have to have a public hearing to begin. So this is to have the public hearing. And then following the public hearing, we would recommend you approve the rates as proposed by City Sanitary. And just for the benefit of the public, the staff and the city council generally do not have influence over the rates in other than this. They didn't consult with us on how much they wanted to raise them. They just brought them and said, we'd like to raise them. We pass it on to the city council. This is the process that's been established over many years.
All right. Anybody from public have anything? For or against? If you wish to speak, I will recognize you. Keep any questions precise. Anything else going once? Nobody. There we go.
Councilmember Chris, you're with us?
I am now, yes.
Okay. Apologize for the tech issues.
That's all right.
We're moving on to the downtown parking summit. So last Wednesday, we invited our downtown business community to come join us at the Coliseum Theater. And I need to say thank you to Sadie and our friends at the Coliseum for giving us their venue to allow this to happen. About 20 people showed up from the business community. And there were some passionate people there. And we got a lot of really good input, and I'm very grateful that we had council members Knopfsinger, Bouchard, and Chris in attendance along with Mayor Burke. We did some live polling of those people that were there to get some intent. And we presented different scenarios on what we could do with parking, which we're not gonna go through tonight to rehash. But I think there were some clear takeaways, but before I get too far into this, I would like to hear from the three council members and the mayor who were there, just to give your 30-second recap. So Mayor, if you want.
Yeah, I think it was pretty good. I guess the consensus from what I heard, I had to leave, but from what I heard. Permanent parking for employees was a huge one in all of the city owned spots, so that would give business owners, and there's different ways that went about it. There was discussion of other cities where the businesses will actually have a registration with their employees that they send to the city, so they can keep track of employees and employers and where they're parking. That was one idea. Trying to think, time limits was one of the big highlights. Is 2 hours really a thing that is needed if you want to go downtown for shopping and go to lunch? Should we limit people's time if they want to go to a store and then go eat? I mean, is that to 2 hours? Is it 3 hours? And why? At what force? There's a lot of good ideas that seem to be a consensus of everyone, so I thought it was pretty good. Well, anybody else?
First off, thank you to Sean for putting it together and putting the polling and taking the many heated comments that were thrown at you. I think it was agreed upon by everyone that the main issue with parking was the lack of enforcement. Whether that's confusion about, you know, some days my tires get chopped, some days they don't, confusion about where you can park or my employees are supposed to park, etc. And consensus was that, as Mayor said, having paid employee parking. And then also there was discussion about potentially putting an additional fee on business license or just increasing our business license fee as it is considerably low compared to other cities to pay for more enforcement. I know Kenny has his hands full with a lot of other code citation issues other than enforcing downtown parking. So that was something that was brought up, potentially hiring someone part-time who works 20 hours a week, who can only focus on enforcing parking to ensure that our businesses have available spots for guests who want to come in, and those are being taken up by residents or employees of those businesses.
Another piece I could add is, I think we need to up the parking fee from parking ticket fee from $5 to something a little more. 2026 instead of 1982. So, my takeaway meeting was, I thought it was pretty good. I mean, you're not gonna please everybody all the time, so you know how it works. What works for industrial might not work for Braden Stone, and that's just the way it is. So I think it went pretty well. I think it's a big step in transparency and getting the opinion from people in the business community, because look how many people showed up to that compared to how many people show up to our meetings that
That's
are
right.
very,
Yeah.
when they're at. So I thought it was good all around. I thought it was a good thing.
Also, just one more thing I want to mention, is that there was some discussion about potentially reevaluating what is considered actual downtown parking and where those lines are, you know, example, someone brought up is Stillwell, should that really have 2 hour minimum parking, et cetera, et cetera. So.
Are you there?
I don't really- I really don't have anything else to add. I think that if there was a way to find a space for employees so they can know they can park here, even if it's at their expense or the expense of the employer, but to know here's where I can park because I work here all day, and to stay off the street parking and all of that, I think that would be terrific. And I also agree with Garrett that a $5 fee is not much of a disincentive But something that was a little more substantial, even if it's going to get tossed by the court, which is something that was suggested could happen, as we talked about earlier. It's still a hassle to have to go down and show up for court and do all that. So that seems like a simple added incentive to not violate.
I know the last parking ticket I got in Hawaii in a rental was $80 before fees. And then you get all the fees, it's $100, and yeah,
Okay,
get bikes.
so there was very, very clear enforcement and a place for employees or employers to send their employees to park. We did an inventory of the city lots, and the caveat that we give is that I can only enforce parking on city-owned lots and the streets. So, for instance, Safeway owns their parking lot, right? There's no time limit or anything like that. That becomes a trespassing issue that goes to code enforcement or the police. We have on the parking lots, the city-owned parking lot at Second and Ivy on the east side of the street. There are 38 available spaces with an ADA space and 2 EV spaces. At Second and Ivy on the west side of the street, there are 27 available parking spaces. The 8 of those are reserved for business in that parking lot. They have an arrangement with the city that we can't do anything with, but other than that, there are 27 and 0 ADA. I'm gonna skip the Tura parking lot because the city does have influence over that, but we'd have to go to Tura and get permission and stuff like that, so we're not gonna include those in our numbers. The city lot at First and Stillwell has 11 spaces, 1 RV space, 2 EV spaces with the 11 parking spaces. What I wanted to bring up tonight is I think there are some very, very easy fixes that we can do as a city, almost immediately to get something done here. If we were to take, the total number of parking spaces, I think I calculated, you take 38 plus 27 plus 11, we're in the 70-ish range of parking spaces.
That includes Tara,
No, this is not the tour law. So just,
let's check.
yeah. I would think that if we were to take 75% of those, and what I calculated when I did the math, was about 50 parking spaces. We could identify approximately 50 parking spaces as a reserved parking where we could set up some rules to say, do we want this to be 7 AM to 7 PM, Monday through Saturday? Do we want this to be 24-hour? Of course, we don't want overnight parking in city-owned lots, so we don't want to do that. But something where we could pay or have a paid parking pass that would be on a first come, first served basis. And I'm thinking the way that I contemplate this is having something like a college campus where you're not buying a specific stall. But we sell, if we've got 50 spots available, we can sell 50 parking passes, and theoretically, one will always be available in that area. And we can designate it for a specific parking lot and do it that way, or for any of the city lots, we can have that. Parking prices, I've checked with some other cities, cities that sell monthly parking passes generally charge about $65 a month per parking. So if we were to do an annual pass, you take that $65, multiply it by 12. And I have to go to the calculator here because I can't do the math in my head. That's $780. Even if you were to round that up to $1,000, which would be about $83 a month, you're right in that realm of an annual pass. Multiply that by 50. You're at $39,000 of revenue in there, which would be somewhat enough to hire a part-time person to focus on downtown parking. I think that combined with our business licensing, unfortunately for us, the business license renewals just went out this week. And so there will not be any change to the price of business licensing in advance of July 1, because we'd have to pull all those renewals back, and that would just be a headache. And so we could do something where the business license goes up following July 1 or or after July 1 and any new business coming in, and then renewals would hit at this time next year for the businesses to prepare for any kind of business license increase there. So just making reserve spots in the city owned lots is an easy thing that we can do. We can print out passes that hang in the mirror, and it can be just as simple as we're not registering a car, we're not registering a license plate, but we're giving you a pass. And if Terry, can I use you as an example? If you want 4 passes behind the Dutch Mill, you can pay the money for those 4 passes, and however you want to distribute those amongst your employees, great. But as long as there's a pass hanging from the mirror for those reserve spots, you're not gonna get a ticket. And you can pay for that spot. I think that's an easy thing to do. And just from a revenue and a management standpoint, I'd rather do that on an annual basis than a month-to-month basis. Just because if you're printing out a parking pass and you have to do it month to month, there's gotta be a way to track that, and get people back in or mail them all out. Just rather doing it on an annual basis seems to make sense to me. So I think that hits one of those notes of the employer-employee parking. I've talked with our public works to take us a couple weeks to restripe or stencil reserved on some of those. The reason I only wanna do 75% of the lots, the spaces, is just because there may be times when an overflow is needed to have some extra spaces where people can park that aren't reserved. I think that's just a kind thing to do. So that's my initial idea. Anything going on top of that? I'm going blank on maybe what else can we talk about?
Parking, designated parking.
Yeah.
Space for enforcement,
Yeah,
business registration.
yeah, I think that hits a lot of those notes that we heard about at the parking summit. Please.
Do we have a recommendation on business license, how much you wanna see it?
Not at this time. I wanna do some more research on what other cities are paying. for
Why
their
don't we
businesses.
wait on that for a year and give the others time to start working and see how it goes?
Right, I'm just curious if they,
Yeah.
if they're taking double or 25 times.
That's gonna happen. Yeah.
First of all, I agree with a lot of the ideas that you suggested. And then also the question, I know when we had the parking summit, you ballparked around 50,000 for a part-time employee. Only strictly doing parking enforcement around 20 hours a week. Do we get any more refined numbers on that?
I do have some more refined numbers on me, pull that up. I was given a, memo, just internal, it's not for public, from Chief Troxel on what different costs for different, methods of parking enforcement would be, and so this is the number that he came up with. And it's, he put it on, I think this is a little high, he put it at a small program between $120,000 and $300,000 annually, depending on, maybe we're hiring 3 people, 4 people, supervisors, software, equipment. I think a lot of that could be handled with stuff that we're already doing, so it's just a matter of finding what that price was. I think 80,000 would get us 1 to 2 part-time people, because 80,000 is a lot for a part-time person.
Yeah.
But even within the 60,000 of this revenue, I think we could get at least 1 part-time person, with some overhead costs taken care of to where we could get some enforcement. The idea with that part-time person is it wouldn't be you're gonna work 10 to noon, Monday through Thursday, right? You're gonna come in 10 to noon Monday, maybe 3 to 5 on Wednesday, and maybe on a Saturday, depending on how that. Part of this would require us to look at the hours and setting the rules and stuff. There's gonna be some forward into this. None of this can start till July 1 based on our budget year and putting this into our budget that's getting proposed next week. So, which this is not part of that as of yet. These are just ideas. The other thing, the one that I didn't talk about was raising the the fine and doing that by ordinance. So that we're not just at $5 per. That's the one I heard.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
Yeah, quite possibly the most frustrating conversation for me. I'll try and keep it together. I heard from a lot of people after the summit, and it's kind of difficult to come back. Business sentiment in downtown is pretty low. There was a lot of disgruntled people after this thing. So it was really interesting to get those texts. I heard about all of these things, lack of enforcement, paid employee parking fee increase. I agree with the campus style permitting. I think that there's a couple of flaws in the reserve parking spaces. We did this before, where the city made a trial run at issuing parking permits, but there was no reserved parking spots. And I don't think we ever got really a fair shake of how that played out, because there just wasn't a lot of people that took advantage of it because of the lack of enforcement for on-street parking. So by parking. I would actually propose that you don't reserve parking spots. I would propose doing it quarterly, setting up some kind of automated situation. The reality of a small business is you're gonna have potential turnover. This idea that, you know, somebody's gonna just call in and be like, I'm done, and you know, somehow you're gonna get that parking pass back is not likely. And so, you know, setting it up on a quarterly auto renew, I think gives business owners the opportunity to address that if they have new staff people, they can issue those to those. I think that one thing that reserving spots doesn't do is doesn't take shift differentials into account. Whether or not somebody works the morning shift or works in the afternoon, or if there's more people on at lunchtime. And so, you know, while I understand there's a limited amount of spots, I proposed a year ago, almost. I think that there's a combination that needs to be had. I think that if you create a campus style parking lot for any city parking lot, you know, so if I pull in behind my office and there's not one available, I can drive over to theoretically the Turtle lot or the city lot, or, you know, potentially, I don't know, all legalities on the sewage Elmore lot with the rainboard and stuff, but you know, all of these city-owned parking lots, being able to choose from one of those, and if there's not one available, then I go back to, I gotta park outside the boundary like everybody else. I proposed at that time that we create reserved spots for monthly parking in the little library lot there next at the southwest corner of Second and Ivy. I think that those are gonna be vital to the future of downtown, in the sense of we have 8 apartments about ready to open. We have 4 apartments just went, we have 6 more that are gonna go in. I think that as we get residents in downtown, we're gonna have to do something to support those residents. And I think that if you're a resident and you wanna take the chance of moving your car all around, great. If you don't, I think there should be options to park your car. I think the city is well positioned to lease those spaces, just like April does across the street from Pioneer Museum. And so I think that there's a combination here. I think that the kind of permission to park, I guess you could say, I think that leaves the city lots at a certain time. But if you have one of those placards, you're just not enforced. I think that those could be very cost effective in the sense of if the businesses said, hey, I need them for my staff, I don't think we need to charge a lot of money for them. I think it's, I think the volume will assist to it. They're not guaranteed, so I don't want to pay a lot of money to have a non-guaranteed spot. But if you just have the reserve spots, I think you run into a problem real fast. Really fast. So I think that there is some possibilities there,
Councilmember, can I
Go ahead.
just clarify?
Yeah.
So what I proposed was 75% of the downtown spots being reserved and 25% being left open to the current standards, so just anybody without a placard can park there. Is that different than what you're thinking?
I just think they should all be open, and you can get people park there, they park there, if they don't, they don't.
So no reserved parking at all downtown?
Right, except for in the library lot where I think people should be able to pay monthly for a dedicated spot. So
Okay.
I think
I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah, I think
how
they
they're
would-
different.
cause here's what. Because if I'm so essentially what you're doing there is. Now, if I'm a customer. And there's a reserved spot there. If it's evening time and half the employees have gone home. If I'm a customer, can I not park in that spot?
Well, it depends on the reservation. If we put a time to 7, it's only reserved from 7 AM to 7 PM.
Yeah.
Then after 7 PM or 6 PM or
I
whatever.
guess I'm also going for you, I'm trying to think of from an actual, like, a user friendly system.
Sure.
Where it's like this time, you know, like. If I'm gonna go park downtown as a customer. I want, it needs to be simple, I don't wanna have to guess where I can park at what time and where I should and where I can't park. And so I think that there's a reality there that making this as easy as possible, but also accommodating the business owners. And giving them a reasonable accommodation to be able to park within a reasonable distance from their business is important. Prior to enforcement, and I think that having them wide open. We've seen where people are parking in for 4 hours, and like the lot behind the Dutch Mill and Chamber there is more full now. Which is positive to me, because that means there's less people parking on the street that shouldn't. And so I think if that was the case, and we just made that clear with those placards across all city parking lots. I think you solve the lion's share of the issue. I think the one thing that is pretty clear is that there are a handful of habitual offenders in downtown. We're not talking, right now, we're not talking trying to accommodate every single businesses. Every majority of businesses already have this under control. There is a handful of habitual offenders, and so we don't need to open. It's not like we needed 75 new spots. We need to get the 10 or 12 that habitually park on the street to move their car wherever it wants. And so, for me, this campus style is kind of the ability to right the wrongs that are happening. I still think that the reserve spots of a dedicated lease of, I think there's 21 spots. I think that the competitive, the market is about $75 a month for those, in a sense of if you wanted to stay in equal and not undercut the private sector, but not overshoot it a lot. I mean, you're talking over $20,000 just on that one parking lot for the city in revenue. Then you're also accommodating business owners who might have delivery vehicles that they want to park in downtown and don't want to take them home. There's a few of those downtown that we all know about. There's residences that are happening that are gonna have cars because they're all market rate housing. They like all to have vehicles. And maybe there's business owners who are like, I don't wanna take the risk of not knowing where I'm gonna park and I'll pay the extra money. I mean, there's gotta be levelness here. And then I think we have the whole conversation about enforcement, and I think that for me, that is. I heard multiple times about the 8.6 calls a day. And trying to understand how that plays into not having time for downtown. And I have no doubt that Kenny gets a lot of calls, that we get a lot of calls for code enforcement. I think for me. And the fact that there was 3 city councilors and the mayor at a meeting, and that the business owner showed up. I think that. We need to figure out our priorities. And like, maybe we don't get to 8.6 calls per day. Maybe we only get to 6 of them. Because the rest of the time, we have a priority of enforcing parking. And I requested it at one point, as not sitting in here, I want to be very clear, not sitting as a city councilman, I requested it as a chamber of commerce. As my employer. You know, we at one point made a request for a dedicated. Allotment of time spent in downtown for parking enforcement. That was denied at that time. And then we got some enforcement for a period of time. And I think the problem that we have is that it went for a period of time, everybody seemed to be enlightened that there was enforcement happening. There were some people who were frustrated that enforcement was happening. The people that were frustrated were people breaking the rules. Rightfully so, they should have been frustrated. They should also not have collected where they were. And then it went away. And so the disheartened business, I mean, the business community in downtown was completely disheartened at that point. It was almost like we were pacified because there was a complaint and we got it going and it was going, and then it just stopped. And I think that is where I listened to the park summit. If there was palpable frustration, if nobody else heard it. And that's a sentiment of where it comes from, is we just have to be consistent. We have to do something. So I'm gonna start off my soapbox here, because like, there are solutions. And we need to get on. We need to prioritize downtown parking as a council or as a city or together. Maybe we could do that. But we're not prioritizing downtown parking from an enforcement perspective. It's all about where do we find money, how do we find money. And I think if we don't have money, we need to identify the priority of what codes we want enforced if we can't get on parking. Because it's important. And if we don't start getting into parking, I'll just stop.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dean.
Well, having just been recently coming back on the council, and I don't recall any of this conversation when I was on 3 years ago or 4. But one thing I do know, and this is something I suppose for me as a resident and just saying what happened here, because I don't have a lot of background of what's happened in the last 3 or 4 years, except to know there was a short time ago when things were working better. But my recollection, and I don't want to be that guy that says, in the old days, but my recollection is we did have a code enforcement officer focused on downtown at one time. I think that's about 4 or 5 years ago. And for many years before. And I knew Deb really well. And it seemed to me in my recollection that worked pretty well. Kind of curious, where'd that go? And why did it go? Because it sounds like we're back to needing that very thing. Somebody who spends most of their time downtown. So I'm just curious, what happened to that? And why isn't that, where did that go?
So we did have a part-time parking enforcement person that was a citizen person, and this is what's been told to me, so if I get a detail or two wrong, please forgive me. But we did have a part-time person. That money was rolled into several years ago to a full-time officer. Whether promises were made or not, I'm not gonna speak to that, about what that officer would do. And then as budget has come along, we've had a code enforcement officer. That code enforcement officer was specifically, or that parking enforcement officer was specifically for parking. The hire we've made, Kenny, for code enforcement is not just for downtown parking, it's for code enforcement across the city and helping out the other officers in some of their jobs and some of their roles. That's where some of the 8.6 calls per day come from. So it was a focus of an employee pre-COVID. It was not the focus of the hire that was made before I got here. To Councilmember Rothmeier's comment, I never rescinded the directive to the police department to focus on downtown weekly. My commitment to the chief gets to deploy his people where he sees fit.
I mean, that's fine, but I mean.
I'm just answering your question.
Hold on, but the thing is if you didn't rescind it and it stopped, then we need to have that conversation.
And I have had that conversation.
Because, thank you.
So, that conversation's been had a couple of times, so. We're working on that. That said, this was just a proposal to bring up after the sun. Other comments?
My recollection on that, with hiring another officer instead of having a part-time. Meter person was not, so that officer, that one officer would do the downtown parking, but they would divide it up between them, but they got a certified officer versus just a meter reader, if I remember correctly, so. That was the thought of getting rid of that position and going to a certified option, you could then do everything, cover shifts and do that. While then everyone collectively taking over the duties of the meter reader, which is where I think we've fallen short on so much. Anybody else?
You said in there asking Councilman Meyer if what you proposed and what he proposed were the same thing, which it sounded to me like they were. Is that still your opinion, more or less?
I think they're very similar. I think there's maybe some nuance differences from the council member that I'm not quite sure I understand, but I think that's a conversation that we can take in a one.
Just for the record, real quick, I mean, I'll just, the nuances, the quick overview of the nuances was. Yes, the parking permits, the difference is that. The recommendation or the proposal is that there would be 75% of the spots within the city parking lots would be reserved.
Which is 45-ish.
I think that there's not, I don't think that's a necessary component, I think that the parking lots can be wide open if you had that permit. And then I think one of the other nuances is that to have dedicated spots. In one of the parking lots where, you could lease that space on a month-to-month or on an annual basis.
And you're saying a specific stall.
It's specific
Stall one.
stall 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I pay for spot number 5, so when I show up to work every day, I know that. Part of that 5, if I have a delivery van that sits on the street. I can now park at stall number 4 every single night before I go home. You know,
And that's not really different. I'd
Right.
rather than assigning a specific stall, try saying we're only going to sell the number of permits for the number of stalls.
and in that parking lot, I think that there's a mix there, but so the difference is, I think that I'm kind of more of a mix to kind of try and kill both birds with the same resolution or ordinance changes, and I think those were really the main ones, from a parking permitting standpoint, really it's just about not being insured.
And quarterly versus annual.
Quarterly versus annual, I do. There are systems that are automated, I think it would be important, I mean, I'd be happy to, you know, pony up some funding on. Getting that system created, I think that there's ways to automate that. To where a business owner can go in and just auto renews every quarter. Mail out 4 little stickers or plaques to go in the thing and do call it good. Cause I wanna be cognizant of administrative burden also for renewals, things like that. I just think there are ways to do it where it's not a huge burden. There's a lot of softwares out there. I talked to the coder on our trip actually, who was like, yeah, I can do that, you know, this is how much, a few $1,000. Obviously, there's some, you know, how payments are received and all that stuff in the city, but. You know, I think that the reason, I think quarterly is important because of just turnover and, you don't wanna. You know, a city, you don't want a business owner to come in, be like, okay, I had 2 employees leave, can I get 2 more? And all of a sudden they're paying for it because they have 2 floating out there, they're never gonna use them because they don't work in downtown. You know, so I think accommodating that turnover perspective, is important.
Anybody else?
So I'm just trying to clarify a few things. So you want the campus parking, but you want 21 approximately dedicated spots. that those would be charged the fee of whatever we come on.
Yeah.
But they can't, the other parking lots, open to anybody, not, there's no permits or parking that.
No. So. There's two scenarios, like, so. Second 90 on the east side. Potentially turn if they will do a city lot at Stillwell and First Street. And if there's any other ones that we can actually allow parking in. Those would be open for a permit, for a permit holder, which would be a quarterly permit that you could put on your sticker on your window, or put a placard. The 21 spots that are in the southwest corner of Ivy and Second would be stalled and numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so on. That would then have an annual cost to a dedicated spot. The charge would be significantly more. It would generate some pretty significant revenue, but it would also accommodate a different need than just your general person coming.
So leave no spots open for open public parking
No,
without. Or a plan.
well, they could park there. I mean, if all of a sudden, if customers start going up, they could park there. But in my experience and based on when enforcement took place for that period of time. The customers typically will park on the street next to the business they're in.
I'm just trying,
I mean, it was noticeably different when there was enforcement in regards to customer parking.
How do you feel about raising business license to try to make up some revenue?
I think it's terrible.
Huh?
I think that's a terrible thing. I think. Well, there's, where to start.
I mean, ours is generally.
One is maybe, so you have a significant amount of businesses right now that just aren't, that are already walking to work or not parking in that area. So they have found a way to, they have the choice whether or not they are gonna pay for parking or whether or not they're going to take a route that saves them that cost, right? So if we increase business license, that takes that freedom away for no reason, because they're already accommodating the rules. I think there are businesses that have parking lots in downtown that don't need you to enforce the parking per se. Wells Fargo, All-Star Appliance, Safeway. You know, I mean, there's these businesses that already have parking. Pelican bought a whole lot behind them so their employees could park there. And I think that what you're talking about isn't a business license increase for a district. Because we already have this kind of weird dynamic where the $25 from every business license across the whole city goes to one organization that focuses on just this special district of downtown. Like, how is that equitable for everybody that's outside of downtown? So again, now you have to basically make it more costly to be a business in downtown. Because you need this enforcement. When if you want to talk about significant impact, you would look at a business improvement district where the businesses would determine. What they would like to fund and how much they're willing to do that. That's a whole different conversation. Business improvement districts are a thing. The nice thing about them is they're made to work or not work at the voice of the businesses that you're trying to help. So it's not the government saying, we're here to help you. So we're gonna charge you more money. It's the businesses having a say in, here's what we need help with, and here's how much we're willing to put up for that. So I think that the business license concept is I think it's a terrible way to solve a problem I'm trying to solve. I think that if you're gonna try and solve a parking issue, solve it with a parking fee. I mean, those that need it, they'll buy it. Those that won't, don't.
So, well, I kind of feel like I couldn't tell you what the priority is for. Code enforcement, maybe Chief Russell can show us how he sees code enforcement. How he runs, I mean, just like an informational presentation would be good, I think, maybe Russell. Okay, that's all I have.
I have one more thing, I'd like to see, Second Street Plaza, put back, put back to how it was designed originally with open for parking. And also just handicap, if we could do that.
How many spots was it?
It was from like 7 down to like 6, because the idea was to have this plaza that could be closed down and used when needed, but then it became a plaza closed all the time to be just a plaza for events, and we don't have a lot of events there. I mainly see it used for parking for workers that park in there, so why would we not wanna open up 6 spaces for handicap only in downtown, right in the middle? And then it can be closed with a permit for being used as the plaza.
I remember watching the meeting, and it was one of the few meetings where the mayor made the time we can vote.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah,
on that, so I actually, I like the space, and I won't wanna just give it up to go back to parking, but I like the idea of handicap parking and being able to close it down for this, because you're right, it's a lot of parking for business, for workers and stuff, so I like that idea.
yeah, cause I mean, that would open up 6 spaces for handicapped people that aren't gonna go park over behind the Dutch to go over to her place. I mean, it's centralized, it's right there.
Well, but I definitely don't wanna get rid of it completely, but I like the idea.
Looking back at that meeting,
Using it better.
that was, I mean. I'm 100% on board, I was on board with that, I was the one at the meeting. Advocating for it to be used how it was designed, I think the goals for that space were very aspirational. And it was new and shiny and nobody wanted to. You know, and that was definitely, a pet project, to keep close of city leadership at that time. I think that I would agree, I mean, we were lacking a significant amount of handicap spaces in downtown already. I think that they're kind of sparsed out, I think that would allow for consolidation also. There's just kind of random handicap spots here and there. I think, you know, we have multiple, the majority of businesses and or property owners over here. That, you know, obviously would want to check. I know that I did float that to a couple businesses. The one thing I got was, well, if that's open for traffic, you know, it might make those crosswalks more dangerous. I don't really know if that's accurate. I just wanted to portray that was the one thing that I heard of, like, well, if there's a car there, you know, would a pedestrian know that there's a car there? Well, there's one-way signs on the street, and, you know, it used to be that way. I'm an advocate for it, that being open, simply because we would look to put a public parking sign that would point down that way, because that is the easiest access to other public parking. Because right now, when you cut off Second Street, you have to go through the main intersection of the highway, and usually if you're somebody who's looking to patronize, if you've made it that far, you're like, yeah, we're through downtown, which should be private.
But do you like the idea of keeping it for events, or do you want it open permanently just for?
No, I think we put a really nice
Yeah, okay.
hydraulic doors.
Yeah.
I think it's awesome that, I mean, I think that leaving it open, I mean, I think if we opened it and closed it for events, we would get the highest and best use out of that space
Exactly.
versus it being closed. And then like open randomly when we have a construction crew that needs to go in.
I feel like it's used as food, but I feel like.
Well, the problem
Yeah,
is,
so I was thinking,
I mean, it's difficult to use in the afternoon because that is the windiest location in downtown. I mean, downtown.
but
On that line, I was one of the 3 that voted in favor of opening that back up at that time, because the original plan was.
Yeah.
It was gonna be built, it was gonna be constructed, but then it was gonna be maintained for use. And then it went back on what was promised to the businesses. That was a promise made to businesses, that would be open and usable.
What it was originally parking, was it only handicap or was it?
no, it's just gonna be diagonal with like one.
If you look at that,
Yeah.
if you go walk through there, the pavement roofs are really designed in the color. It had the parking lots are actually designed in the concrete. And the bollards are in front of each parking space, like it is designed to be parking, there's bollards on the other side to keep you from backing in, there's trees there to keep you from backing into Terry's building. I do think there might be an opportunity to put a couple more bollards in, because you never know, people backing up,
Yeah.
you know, I've seen people backing up into things, but we try not to back up into buildings. But anyway, I mean, obviously not a decision right now, but like, I would support that coming back to council for
Okay.
sure.
Absolutely.
I think we see here that there's a, I think most of us on council are in agreement that the basic ideas that are put forward here are a direction that we would go.
Yeah,
So the question I have, is this gonna be tabled to, work out a few more designs, or maybe have to work out
The
back?
details, we're obviously,
Does the
what
council
we
have?
talked about is, I think we need to bring an official proposal back, right?
Okay,
And I think there needs to be some clarification, and again, we don't have to decide this right now. But is it hours, you know, 7 to 7, or is it 24 hours? Is it, we only sell so many permits for the reserved spaces, or is it you get space 1, you get space 2, you get space 3? Quarterly versus annually, there's a lot of details, crossing T's, dotting I's, that I think we need to sort out.
I like the idea of the lot, the old library lot being paid for, like, for businesses especially who have a vehicle that they need there overnight, that they need that, I like that.
I think
idea of that being permanent through their 21 spaces or whatever that is, I like that.
I also just think as we grow, not like the current need is one thing, but I think as residential units in downtown grow.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be very important. I mean, if you're working, you know, if you're a reasonable income earner and you're renting a nice apartment because you want an apartment and it's nice, it's downtown, brand new. You know, that's a cost of that a lot of apartment owners in other cities have to incur. It's just the way it is, and it comes with the package. And you know, if I'm a resident, like, I want parking as close to my thing as possible, as to my apartment as possible. And so I think that as we get, as Terry's first apartment's open up, the second apartment's open up, Lisa, I know that, you know, there's some tenants in that building that push the envelope on the main streets. And it's like, well, if there was dedicated spaces, I think we could get there, so.
I just think, bottom line for me is. The parking, the whole property issue is to benefit businesses, and I think that we just need to get a lot of feedback from businesses. What do they want? How do they want us to do it? And I think we go that direction. I mean, it's ultimately the parking is there to benefit them. The businesses benefit the city and our infrastructure, and so. Well, let's have a conversation with the businesses, let's get it hammered out, let's get it moving forward.
Well, and that's what some of us was a conversation with businesses, we've heard what they want, now we just need to get the details of the proposal.
I think that, I mean, and yeah, I'll say it on the record, but I'll probably shout for it, figuratively. I think what you have to be careful of is there are offenders currently of parking on the street. And there is a lot of self-interest. Yes, when you
Yeah.
just go individually talk to like, people have their own interests at heart. Rightfully so, it's their own. So it's taking those self-interests and then looking at it as in a holistic approach to say, okay, how is that something that you can accommodate, or is that not for the greater good of everybody, and how downtown needs to function? So I think we got a lot of business input. I got a lot of business input before I even made a proposal originally last year. And so I think that the input, and I think that it's starting to spur more input as we have the conversation, and so I do think that this is. I think what Sean has given and the input I've given, I think it does reflect well. A lot of those businesses, just so you.
Can we assign this task to staff with trying to put together the stuff you've heard here and what was going on at the parking summit? That's part of maybe bringing back option A, option B or something, I don't know. It sounded to me like earlier, just that what you had said, I thought that'd be what he wanted to say, and then he said it, and so I thought, let's just do that. But I think we still obviously have to keep talking.
I think if Council Optimar would be open to it, I'd love to have a sit down with him to go over some crossing T's, dotting I's to bring a proposal back. And again, we could have that back as soon as we can to have something going. Couple of things to this, and Councilmember Chris does want to talk, and may I finish my thought, real quick? No, okay. Councilmember Chris wants to speak.
Well, I just wanted to, I guess as I listen to this, one thought I have is listening to kind of the nuanced differences between what you were proposing or what you had come up with and what Justin had said. If we were to go with Justin's plan, the way he presented it, especially regarding just selling X number of permits and they could park anywhere in any of the city lots, let's test drive that. Let's make that our first start. And then if we evaluate 6 months or a year later and say, you know what, it looks like maybe designated would work better, let's do that. But the way he proposed it is the simplest way to go. And if it works, then we don't have to paint and we don't have to worry about that whole deal. So that would be my suggestion, that we go with that. And I also just want to chime in on Second Street. When I was on the council before, I shook my head at some of the ridiculous arguments that were brought out somehow to ensure we never use that space for what it was made for. So I'm also in favor of that being opened back up. And as someone who didn't understand how important handicap spaces are until my wife became disabled, that'd be pretty cool. Even if just half of those on Second Street were set aside for that, I think that'd be terrific.
Just so I can finish my thought, again, we want to emphasize that we have not proposed any changes to the on-street parking in 2 hours. I'm obviously open to time changes or something like that, or to the comment made earlier. Again, we don't keep a registration of who owns what vehicles. We treat every car the same. If it's in a spot that is a 2 hour parking and they're there for more than 2 hours, they should be given a warning or a ticket, right? Whether you're an employee or an employer or a customer, we have to look at it the same way, because we don't keep a registration. And part of that is because of what you said, there's so much turnover that keeping that kind of registration would just be an exercise of futility with our staff. So it's just not gonna work. And then well, we can get the details on that. I've also saw one idea today that I didn't bring up that I think would help some of our habitual people, is a 30-minute a pass that you can get somewhat for loading to park in a designated, not a assigned stall, but you can park. If you turn on your flashers, you have this pass, you can get 30 minutes to park in a stall rather than the loading zone. The loading zones currently are supposed to be 20 minutes, but obviously we have people that are parking for longer than 20 minutes. So those are other ideas that we will bring forward. Later, I'm happy to bring something more forward, and Justin and I can get together. If that's the will of the council. Okay.
Perfect, all right. Moving on, next is the city response to request for a letter of support regarding FEMA.
Okay, you actually have 2 requests in your packet. One of those is from the League of Oregon Cities, that is putting together and asking for responses for a FEMA program. I'm actually gonna have Megan discuss that one. Are you okay with that?
That one I'm not more, the Oregon for floodplain is the one I'm.
Oh, my apologies. Let me see if I can pull this up here real quick. I had these all open at one time, then my computer crashed, and I've been trying to not use any major resources here. So what the league is asking is if there is a interest from cities, this is from their legislative director, to say that there's final important recommendations for the Trump administration regarding the future structure and mission of FEMA. The league is asking for feedback before June 5th. The FEMA Review Council asserts that disaster response should be locally executed, state managed, and federally supported, which would be a major shift in federal disaster policy. from what it is now, by increasing state, local, tribal and territorial responsibility while reducing FEMA's direct operational role. The long and the short of it is we are not party to a ongoing lawsuit, but we have previously voiced support for the terms of that lawsuit. And we have not put money towards it. I just don't want to put anything in writing that goes against what that lawsuit and those things in the direction the city has previously gone. So I'm happy to write a letter if that's what the council would like me to do. I'm happy to not write a letter and just let it go. We just got this. FEMA is a big topic for a lot of our businesses, and we know that we've had issues with FEMA, so I'm just trying to gauge where we want to go. The other letter from the floodplain people is not asking us to write a letter per se, but to put our logo on a letter that they've drafted, which you have in your packet. It's the same type of thing. Do we want to support and show that open support, or just let things play out as status quo? And that's really what I'm asking is direction from the council. Where do you want me to go with this?
Let me see if I can clarify. So the first letter from the League of Oregon Cities, so there's a fear that the Trump administration is trying to take the insurance policy from federal to private, and that may raise costs.
Not only that, but taking the major disaster relief. So say a hurricane comes in, an earthquake comes in. Right now, FEMA, that comes on a federal level. The federal feds come in and spend the money. They want to make that more locally responsible. So it would be the state or the locality's responsibility to provide those insurance funds and be the.
With federal money or without?
Right.
That's yet to be seen.
From my limited understanding, it's about basically removing the liability from the federal government and putting it onto more localized insurance policies, privatized insurance policies.
On flooding, but you're
The
saying.
issue that you're going to face is coverage. Is just like we saw in all reality, no politics, with the Affordable Health Care Act.
Yeah.
When you regulate one thing, that sounds great until your insurance skyrockets, because now the liability is on that Lake tool. So you put all the weight on that Lake tool, and now it's buckling, so your affordability goes out the door. I would not sign on to either one of these personally. I think that especially being on the coast. And how FEMA and the county, how FEMA has essentially wiped out a lot of development situations. Yes.
Well, isn't the second one saying, let's walk back?
Can I clarify?
Come on.
So the second one is for the Congressman Vance. He actually proposed something, if you remember November of 24.
Yeah.
When we took the stance and council drove us to say, we're taking account the stance that the county is doing, we're not choosing the pickup option. We're gonna continue to enforce the flood regulations that we currently have written in the code. Basically, Vince is saying the same thing. Stop trying to put the ESA list of species and the guidance to local jurisdictions to enforce. That is your problem, that is your lawsuit. And originally FEMA was meant to keep people safe. Regulate development under land management. It didn't have anything to do with keeping the species from getting taken. So that's really not what FEMA's for. And so with that, taking that stance, basically, Vance is saying, let the local jurisdictions keep enforcing how they're enforcing, leave the ESA stuff out of it. Because it's too costly for developers, and it's almost making development zero to where we can't even develop. Or remodel or do anything.
This is the discussion we had about pervious versus impervious, and you've been only rebuilding the same footprint that you already had and all of that, right? The new FEMA floodplain maps that came in and changed everything up. This would be walking some of that back, correct?
Yeah.
This would be sticking with our current regulations and not adding all of the extra guidance of the three options that they wanted us to choose in November of 2024.
Thanks for clarification. I stand corrected. I misread one of those paragraphs, so.
And so what the Oregonians for floodplain is wanting us to do is just say, hey, do you agree with Ben's that we should just keep it the way we're doing it? And you could just put your letterhead on the letter we've already drafted, which is in the packet. But the other piece from LOC is the whole Trump administration bringing it to local level and
Nobody can afford that.
The League of Oregon Cities one, I mean, first of all, it's silly how minimal and how vague the information is in this email to expect people to sign on to anything. But just based on what's in that email, I'm a hard pass on the LOC. That's one, after rereading that paragraph here on page 2, I think we need to sign on to that one first.
Anybody else?
The LOC is not asking us to take a stance, it's just asking for feedback. Well, it says, here's what the report says, we would like your feedback on this. There's no harm in telling them, we disagree with what you're saying, that with your interpretation of the report, if that's what we said, right?
That's fine, as long as it's feedback, but I feel like these are all those things where suddenly you give your feedback and your logo ends up on a piece of paper. I mean, AOC and LOC are notorious for that.
Yeah, I haven't
I've read letters signed by this guy, I had to read back to him. I mean, because there's these, it's amazing what your signature can go.
I don't think there's harm in saying that. City of Tillamook also agrees that, or shares. A little concern about privatization of. Insurance and rising costs, there's nothing wrong with saying
How
that.
about this as a compromise, is what I'm hearing, if I'm not stepping on any toes. I'm happy to call Nicole and have a personal conversation with her about the feelings of the city of Tillamook without putting anything in writing and on letterhead.
Which is okay.
And so I'm happy to do that, because I don't think I've heard the issue. The other for the president of floodplain,
I'm in favor of putting our logo on that one.
you want to put our logo on that?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's
a major word.
Well,
That's you.
just really quick, would that help us to? That would help our developers?
Yes.
it's gonna keep it the way it is now, rather than having those extra compliance measures added to what our current flood code is.
So you could build a fence. You could put a raised planter bed in.
Maybe put it over here.
No, under current, you could.
Yeah.
Under the new stuff, I mean, you're in a floodplain, any man-made development.
Right.
And that's, that.
Okay.
The definition is.
This
literally
really
always
sounds
happens.
that some,
Consensus, yeah.
Anyway, that was the majority of the council.
Yeah.
Chris has it, Chris
Yep,
is.
Dean,
Well, I just, and I don't want to open a can of worms, but Sean, in your presentation or the beginning, when you were kind of explaining, you said something about, and again, this is my ignorance, so I'm new to the situation. Some effect or impact or in relationship to lawsuits. And I was kind of curious if there's anything that we might do here, just based on what you said, that creates some kind of a conflict between what stance we've taken in the past or now. I didn't understand what you meant by that. Can you clarify that?
I think where we've landed on that, council member, is if we just call LOC and don't write anything in paper, we're probably in good standing on that.
Okay.
The friend, what's the acronym again? Oregonians for floodplain. I think that one is in good standing of where we've taken stances in the
Okay.
past.
That's
So
very
I
good.
don't think what we've landed on harms us in any way.
Okay, just thanks.
Consensus.
Okay.
alright. Moving on. I don't have much, congratulations to all the seniors that are graduating, pretty awesome. Prom was Saturday night, there's a lot of cool pictures, a lot of fun. I went to the Merit, what was it, Merit, what was it called again? Wednesday night,
of the academic honors.
academic honors, and there are a lot of kids that have really worked the butts off, and it was nice to see them getting recognized for it, so, good job. Departmental report.
I'm gonna say you've got all the reports in your packet, we can issue any verbal.
Anybody have any questions on this for anybody that's here?
Just one quick question, we filed a grant for the Holden Creek, for the flow study and the redesign. And that was denied.
Excuse me, yeah, we filed that jointly with the county, it was.
Is that one of those grants where they typically deny everything first time and they say you have to apply again?
You know, I don't know, Chris Leahy was saying there's gonna be another window opening up, I think sometime in this fall, I think he's gonna shoot for it again. And we would be part of that.
So I know some of those grants, you keep putting it on the list and it gets flagged as being more and more important every time it gets put on that list.
Yeah, so that's a good question, Brian, I don't know the answer to that, it's one of those things very nice.
And then there was also talk about, just redesign and putting for grants to replace the floodgates or the tide gates where the Golden Creek meets the Trask River.
Yeah,
I was working as part of that whole Golden Creek council, but then it stopped last fall. And there were no more meetings called after November. Is that meeting again? Are they having those meetings? And I just don't know about it.
yeah, well, the county kind of had that up with the flood district and we were invited, there was a number of us there,
Because I know there were other proposals that showed perhaps getting rid of that tide gate and redesigning it, so the tide gate came on this side of 101. And was allowed for Golden Creek to free flow all the way to the Trask River was, I know that there was a proposal a couple of years ago from Mr. Thomas, who did a lot of work on that, there was.
yeah. Yeah, so no, all good points, so yeah, the city jurisdiction is just really those culverts underneath Miller Love High School, tide deeds are county, and then the other.
But we're the filing agent for all these gates right now, is what I read. We're not,
No, because if it's in the county's jurisdiction, we file.
but I think I read there that said that we're doing some of the paperwork for our, for the other parties to help out our neighbors, is what I said.
Yeah, I think Adam Lust, that event was being weird, it was a joint cooperative effort, those aren't our tide gates, but it would benefit us, anything to help get Golden Creek flowing freer and faster. Benefits all of us, so, but yeah, we weren't the ones carrying the flag on that.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
On the police report, Kim Frost was in here, but Sean, if you could answer this. So I saw you guys add some additional categories for health or service. And they're requested, which first of all, thank you. And then for the homeless and mental health calls, do you have any insight if that would include, a call about someone panhandling or for someone sleeping doorways and things like that, and what exactly would fall under that, just to get a better idea.
They're not that nuanced.
Okay.
The reports, because the way the reporting software works and it ties to a specific ordinance or to a specific call.
Yeah.
What they're doing is having to go through and break down, could this be related or not, and almost on a one-for-one basis, it's just time consuming.
Yeah.
So it's not as nuanced as knowing what those specific calls were. So I don't have that.
Yeah.
Basic, it's just that's what they could identify as houselessness adjacent or involving houselessness.
Thank you.
Oh, go ahead.
On the police report, I'm just kind of curious if you can elaborate a little bit on the Safeway conversation. Just, I know I didn't know if you were a part of that, it looked like you
I
were.
was.
I know that's been a significant community kind of hotspot.
Yeah, it is, and we're looking at different things. They were looking to install some cameras down there and taking away the ball drop. That's there, but that's all on them to to do, they said they'd let us know when it was done. I don't know if you have a specific question other than that.
They're getting rid of their bottle wrap.
Yeah,
Safeway.
Well, not, getting rid of their candy bar.
yeah, the, whatever is on that west side where.
Can return.
The can return is there. They wanna switch to bottle drop because that requires a container, but they don't have space to put a container or a trailer. So there's some issues with that. They have to do some internal reconfiguring of the store just to meet those requirements and stuff like that. So they're working on some of that, but they are good partners and it was a really good conversation with them.
Was there any further conversation about the pros and cons of vacating that?
Vacating the
As
street,
a street?
not necessarily, no.
I don't think he was here for most of that conversation we had.
There was a conversation at one point about, from a lawyering perspective, of what vacating this as a street would look like. Maintaining easement, for emergency and things,
So
so
I think they're happy with the status quo as it is right now,
that's interesting. Okay.
unless you've heard otherwise, but
I haven't heard any recently, otherwise,
There was no
at one
discussion.
point, they were very interested in vacating and were.
Because they can't boot people.
They were not, that was not accommodated
Yeah.
by the city at that point, but that was also a couple managers ago, so. I have not had a conversation with recent management or legislative.
we had their corporate security
Yeah, okay.
for the region there. It was not.
I mean, there's pros and cons to that, right? I mean, if you vacate the street, then now you're responsible for maintenance, but then again. You are, I mean, that is the thoroughfare to your business. It's kind of a weird setup in general.
It is.
Not being vacated.
Yeah,
I don't know of a situation where that would actually probably fly in a lot of areas, not having the street vacated between your parking lot and no setbacks. You know, the zone allows for it, it's very interesting concept. But I know at one point they were interested, I don't know now, I just wondered if that had came from, so thank you for the clarification.
So for all I out, Brian, I'm gonna see if you need a full size trailer. That's what they don't have spot. So I'm my understanding.
That makes sense. All right, anything else?
Moving on to planning. Go ahead.
I have a couple things just to update on, but you weren't on the report. I just talked to Terry today and his apartments are almost done, we're looking at mid-June. So that's exciting. I'll add 8 more units to the downtown. I can now confirm that Taco Bell just put in your application, that was brought up at the last meeting.
I get called a lot.
At the Starbucks, the old Starbucks there at Maiden, was never, I can confirm you now have an official application that's under review, so it still could be. But if things are looking.
Sure, it's a real shot.
We have 4 fireworks stands this year, so if you see one on the city lot, we allow one to be on the city lot this year. So right by the soccer field, between Nectar and the soccer field in that empty spot, they'll be there for a couple of weeks. We'll have one at Fred Meyer like we usually have, we'll have one at Tillman Sporting Goods. And then the 4th one will be at Heron. There at the end by their building. And then we will be starting, we got that grant from DLC to do our housing capacity analysis and our housing needs analysis, that's due again. Part of SB 406. So we're gonna be starting workshops, we've got consultants who have been hired with the grant money we received to work with us, so in the next year, we're gonna be working on that. So those things will be coming forward as we work through those. And then I just finished up with 7 new units that will be over on Beechwood. It's not part of the sewer issue, so they can actually develop over there. So we'll have 3 new duplexes and a single family within the next year and a half down over there, so that's exciting news.
Each was.
All right, Tura.
So I will just do not much of a recap other than me and John both weren't there. And the Tura chair sent me a message that said. Sean is the best. He did a great job stewarding the meeting. I really appreciate his knowledge around procedure. So if Sean has anything else he wanted to add, what happened?
No, not for this meeting, it went pretty swimmingly. On it, so
I guess I would say we. Troy's got a budget meeting coming up.
Yeah,
part of it
we've
also.
got that in my comments
Oh, I didn't mean
to that, yeah,
city council.
so. Yeah, they are excited to be with the city council, they did ask, what the topics were gonna be, and I said there'd be several, but I'd be surprised if sidewalks is one of them.
Yep, all right, nothing for April, that, city manager comment.
Okay, I'm gonna make it really quick tonight. A reminder that budget committee hearings are Tuesday, 26th. This is the day after Memorial Day, right? The tour one will be at 5:30. The city one will be at 6 o'clock. And as always, we ask you to reserve Wednesday night, just in case you don't get your business done on Tuesday night.
26.
So 6 p.m. for
6 p.m. Unless you want me to here for the tour one at 5:30.
The 27th would be if needed, this 6 P.M. also.
Yes.
Should go good.
I hope we can get it done.
Yeah.
I can't imagine why we would.
Please do.
And then, the other thing that I have is, Ellie from Amazon reached out with a question about our tour. Next week. Just wanted to confirm and get names of who is attending, so I know,
First I've heard about what is we scheduled for.
it's rescheduled for, April 30th, Thursday at 10 a.m.
Do you May 30th thing?
May 30th, maybe.
No, May 30th, no, it's Saturday.
It is Saturday, it's the 29th, right, with that Thursday.
Friday the 29th is the Thursday.
It's Thursday.
Or is it the 28th?
Yeah.
I will verify the date for those, but
20.
Justin, John, Hope, and possibly Garrett,
Was it 10 a.m.
it
again?
was 10 a.m.
I should be able to get it.
Aaron, were you,
I don't think,
okay,
I'm trying.
that's okay, because her report today, and I didn't see Dean, were you planning on going?
I'm asking again to clarify, you talk about Thursday morning at 10 o'clock on the 28th.
I think so.
Okay, I can do that.
Okay,
Thanks.
so we will need to notice that if we're gonna have that many council members attend. Mayor, there was a request about having you speak and or also speak with the media about the facility.
Yeah, I will do that.
I figured that would probably be enough to start.
That's a tough one. That's a tough one.
Sorry, that was my alarm voice, I didn't mean to laugh
Yeah,
at you.
yeah.
Okay,
So,
I'll see if I.
I will double check the date and.
Yeah, there's.
Okay, and then Ventura. Reserve Wednesday, Amazon Square, I think that's all I've got.
We're speaking of budget meeting.
The
26th.
26,
before council.
yep.
That's 10 a.m. Is that how I heard?
that's a different,
Yeah, that's different, he was talking about budget,
28th, 10 a.m. is,
20.
as of right now.
That's what I have.
Probably cancel once again.
All right. Did you have any more, Sean?
No,
Nope, all right. Council comments. Go ahead.
I don't have anything this time other than congratulations to all the seniors that will be graduating across the county over the next 2 weeks, so that's all I got.
My comments are a little sober today. I recently saw a headlight herald that HomeSource, the Max location just across from Safeway, right next to First Security Bank, is leaving Tillamook. Not because of a lack of business or a lack of support, because they feel unsafe. The owner said in the article, seeing drug use and drug deals outside their shop and having, people come in yelling at employees, things like that, where, people who are honestly against unstable. And I've had a lot of conversations with people recently who are in my ward, residents and business owners alike, and this ties in a little bit to what Justin brought up with the Safeway. I feel like this area has been a hotspot of a lot of questionable activity, and I feel like the specific apartment complex 1708 any of you are familiar with that, on 4th Street, it's the heart of it. I recently did a tour, and in the 20 minutes I was there, I saw many people run back into places in there, run out, doing nefarious things, gosh knows what. And a lot of other questionable things. I talked to the business owners who were right by there and the residents who lived across the street, and they started seeing, drug deals, a lot of scary stuff. And I just want to send a message that we are working and doing everything we can to make our community feel safer. And it really breaks my heart to hear people talk about how they feel so unsafe in our community, especially, folks who live just a few blocks away from me, or people who go to work every day just a few blocks away from me. And that's really disheartening, but I just want to send a message that we are doing everything we can to make a difference in that. And to make Tilla look better, to make Tilla look safer, and to make a place that businesses feel good here. And that visitors want to come and employees feel safe coming to work every day. And that's really important to us. I just want to send that message out there. When you might be hearing otherwise, in the paper and things like that, so.
Thank you. And how many can tonight? No, I think I just wanna touch a little bit on, what Dan mentioned. I wanna just agree. I mean, I think all the things you requested are really important, and I think through a public request, record request, I don't think we should have a problem producing those. It's not a custom report of any sort. And I want to just, on the lateral ordinance repairs. I do want to echo that I do believe there's an issue with this ordinance in regards to the final say on this lateral interpretation. I cannot tell you how many of these situations where licensed professional plumbers, excavation companies, you name it, have very clearly and blatantly called out, said that lateral was not bad. I know that there's family and friends of people who have had very questionable interpretations. I don't know what's going on with that, but I think that no matter what the situation is, I think the city has put itself in a position of liability. Where we have granted the power to make a determination in disregard of other professional opinions to one individual. And of an interpretation issue, and I think that we need to correct that in our ordinance, and I appreciate that you and Sean are working on it. And hope that it comes back with some checks and balances to not only protect the city, but also to give our residents who are facing this, these repairs. There are a lot of them that need to be repaired, don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of them that, I also have a family member who, when dug up, was basically, you have a new line, don't know why. So, but there's no recourse, there's no simple path to that, so. I think we need to accommodate that, and we need to give residents the opportunity to have second opinions. If I go to a doctor and I get a major diagnosis, it's gonna cost me several $1,000s. I want a second opinion. I think we should give people the right to have a professional licensed second opinion. So that they can appeal that decision. I know that there is an appeal process, but from a determination standpoint, that appeal process does not seem to fit what the appeal is. So there are some issues with that ordinance, and I just want to echo that, and I want to make sure that you know that I heard that, and I think others heard that, and I want to make sure that we address that.
Okay.
That's it.
I move to authorize the pay bills.
Hold on, you didn't get a councilman.
Oh, sorry, Pat.
See, every time.
No, it's tough.
Actually, I had nothing to say tonight, so go on with your there, Garrett, get it done.
With that, I move to authorize to pay the bills.
Second. Alright, moved and second, we pay the bill.
It was the second jump.
Send us,
Always seen that.
you please poll the council.
Let me write this down first.
Mhm.
Councilmember Knopfinger,
Aye.
Bouchard.
Aye.
Reynolds.
Aye.
Sandusky,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Ottmeyer.
Alright. Well, that's by the council seat, and with that, we